All right. Hey, everybody, and welcome back for another deep dive with us.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things we do on this show is think.
Think about thinking.
Yeah, exactly. We're always like trying to find ways to learn new stuff,
Yeah.
better, faster, smarter.
Prove effectively.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so today we're actually going to do a deep dive into thinking about thinking.
Metacognition.
Yeah.
It's got a name.
Yeah, metacognition. So we're going to be using this article, Metacognition and Multiplicity of the Arts as Models and Agents by Jessica Hoffman Davis.
And we'll be drawing also on some really vivid examples from a fifth grade classroom at the Sarah Greenwood School.
And they were working with Project MUSE, so that's Museums Uniting with Schools and Education.
It's a great project.
Yeah.
Really cool stuff.
So picture this, Ari. We're in a fifth grade classroom.
Yeah.
It's got this like quiet hum of activity going on, right?
Yeah.
The kids are all kind of like focused. They're in small groups and they're all gathered around a science object.
Okay.
But here's the twist. They're all looking at these objects through cardboard frames.
Ooh.
And they're not just any old frames, though. These frames have got like instructions written on them.
Gotcha.
They're like little prompts for how to look and think.
I love that.
So you can think of them kind of like paper windows.
Yeah, like a lens.
Each one giving you a different like entry point into engaging with what they're seeing.
Yeah, to think about it in a specific way.
Yeah, exactly.
So you might have 5 kids looking at the same object, but thinking about it in 5 very different ways.
Yeah, totally.
Depending on which frame they're holding up.
Exactly. So imagine one of these tables, right in the middle, there's a human skull.
Oh, wow.
And one student's carefully sketching it, just really focused on the lines and the shapes.
Okay.
Another one is writing about why studying a skull is important to science. Someone else is like making a detailed list of everything they see, like the color, the texture, the little details.
Creamy white, rough at the base, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's one kid who's like weaving a story about how this particular skull like ended up in their classroom.
Oh, that's cool.
And then the last one is busy writing down questions.
Okay.
How old could it be? Was it someone who lived a long time ago? I wonder if it belonged to a man or a woman.
Right, all these different approaches.
Yeah. So right away you could
With
see
the same object.
there's all this like active engagement happening.
Yeah, they're not just passively observing, they're really engaging.
They're not just staring at it.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's driven by those prompts.
Yeah. And then here's the really cool part.
Okay.
After a little while, they all pass their frame to the person sitting next to them.
So they switch.
And just like that, their task changes.
I love that.
So the storyteller might now be listing visual details.
Okay.
The artist might have to come up with questions.
And the student who is focused on scientific importance is now drawing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So by physically swapping these windows, these fifth graders are getting to experience how just looking at the same thing in a different way can lead to different insights.
Yeah, they're having this firsthand experience of how powerful it can be to shift your perspective.
Totally.
And how different perspectives lead to different understandings.
Yeah. And they literally get to embody that because they physically move the frame.
That's not just an abstract idea. They're doing it.
Yeah, exactly. And then the learning doesn't stop there.
Oh, good.
Once everyone has had a chance to look through all 5 windows, the teacher shifts the focus to their own thinking.
Okay, so it becomes about metacognition.
Yeah.
Thinking about thinking.
Exactly. And she guides them to reflect not just on what they learned, but also on how their classmates learned.
Oh, I like that.
So once they've all experienced the whole range of responses.
Right. They've seen all the different stories, drawings, questions that came from those same 5 windows.
She asked these really insightful questions. She's like, okay, so which of these windows did you like using the most?
Oh, that's cool.
Which one felt the easiest for you? Which was the most challenging? And then which window helped you learn the most about the skull?
And those questions, they might seem simple, but they're so powerful because they're not about the right answer about the skull.
Exactly.
It's about each student kind of examining their own journey.
Yeah, their own progress.
Through these different ways of learning.
And this is where we get this fantastic real-world example. So this 11-year-old kid named Terry, he raises his hand all excited. He's like,
well, I love 11-year-olds.
I really didn't like the figure it out window earlier this week when we were using it with the aphids.
The little bugs.
Yeah, with tiny little bugs.
Yeah.
And he's like, but yesterday we used that same window at the art museum when we were looking at a painting by Max Beckman.
Oh.
And he's like, and that totally changed how I felt about it.
Wow.
I was actually excited to use it again with the skull, and it ended up being my favorite.
That is such a great example of how learning in one situation can totally change your perspective in another. Totally.
So his experience with that figure-it-out window in the context of art
Yeah.
gave him this new appreciation for that way
Yeah.
of thinking. And even like influenced his experience back in the science classroom.
Yeah, and the teacher even pointed that out. Like, hey, look, Terry, you learned something new about that window just by using it with a piece of art.
Yeah, like the art museum became this unexpected learning lab for him for thinking about thinking.
Exactly. And by using those same paper windows in the museum, the teacher provided this different backdrop, right? A different kind of text
Right, different.
for the students to encounter themselves as learners.
So it wasn't just about the skull or the painting. It was about becoming aware of themselves as learners.
Yeah, and these familiar windows that they were using became these tools.
Tools for thinking.
Yeah, or as Jessica Hoffman Davis calls them, scaffolds and bridges
Interesting.
for their metacognition. So they're thinking about their own thinking more than just memorizing facts about the skull or the painting.
These kids were grappling with the variety and the flexibility of their own learning.
And realizing that different settings impact not just what they learn, but how they learn.
Exactly. And Terry's story is a perfect example of that. Like, his museum visit actually reshaped his thinking back in the classroom.
Right. So these experiences can have a ripple effect.
Yeah. So this brings us to the core of the article's argument.
Okay, what's the main takeaway?
So first, it suggests that all these educational theories, right, all the ideas that are usually like behind the scenes informing how we teach.
Right. The curriculum design stuff.
Yeah, they should actually be brought into the classroom
Oh, interesting.
as the open content for metacognitive activities.
So we should be explicitly teaching kids about these theories.
Yeah. And then second, the article argues that art
Okay.
is a particularly rich resource for inviting all these multiple perspectives.
Because art is so open to interpretation.
Exactly. So Davis is basically saying, by making those theoretical ideas explicit in the classroom, we can help students become more aware of their own learning.
And how others learn.
Exactly. And she argues that art is this amazing tool for this because it naturally lends itself to different interpretations.
Right. There's no one right answer with art.
And ways of understanding.
And within this way of thinking, metacognition isn't just about, getting better grades or memorizing more information.
Yeah.
It's valuable in itself as a way to gain insight into your own cognitive processes and those of the people around you.
Yeah, it's like self-awareness and appreciating how different people think.
Right. Appreciating the diversity.
And learn. So to explore this further, Davis looks at two specific theoretical frameworks by Howard Gardner.
Okay, so he's a big name in education.
Yeah, so we got the entry point approach and the theory of multiple intelligences.
MI theory.
Yeah, MI theory.
Sure.
So Davis acknowledges that the idea of multiple ways into learning isn't like brand new.
Sure.
But she focuses on Gardner's versions because of her own research experience with them.
Okay.
And it's important to remember that we're not here to debate whether Gardner is right or wrong. We're more interested in exploring how his theories can be practical tools.
For becoming more aware of our own thinking.
Exactly. So let's start with the entry point approach.
Okay.
Imagine any subject.
Yeah.
Right? It could be history, science.
A piece of art.
Yeah, even a piece of art.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sitting in the middle of a room with 5 walls.
Okay.
And each wall has a window, but each window is made of a different colored glass.
Interesting.
And so they cast this different colored light onto whatever's in the center.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
And those different colored windows represent the entry points.
Gotcha. So they're like different lenses to which you can view the subject.
Exactly. And each entry point gives you this unique angle, right?
Yeah.
This unique way to access and understand the information.
So it's kind of like approaching a problem from different sides to get a more complete picture.
Exactly. So Davis outlines 5 key entry points that they used in the 5th grade classroom. Remember?
Or with the paper windows.
Yeah, those paper windows. So
Yeah.
first up, we have the aesthetic entry point.
Okay, so aesthetic, that's about beauty and the senses, right?
Exactly. So it's all about the surface and the sensory qualities of something. So with a painting, this might involve noticing the colors, the brushstrokes, the texture.
Composition.
Yeah. With the skull, it would be focusing on its color, its smoothness, its texture.
So how it looks and feels.
Yeah. And this approach
Yeah.
basically helps you connect with the subject through your senses.
So you're engaging your sensory intelligence.
Yeah, totally. And then there's the narrative entry point.
Oh, stories.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So this one focuses on the stories that are connected to an object or a work of art.
Okay, so for painting, it could be the story that it depicts.
Yeah.
The story of the artist.
The story of how it ended up in a particular museum.
Right. Or for the skull.
It might be imagining the life of the person who it belonged to.
Or how it ended up in the classroom.
Right.
That's cool.
So this entry point really taps into our natural human interest in stories.
We're storytelling creatures.
Totally. And then the third one is the logical quantitative entry point.
Okay, so logic and numbers.
Exactly. This is where you're looking for problems to solve.
Patterns to identify.
Yeah, or numerical aspects to consider.
So with art, this might be looking at the mathematical ratios in a sculpture.
Yeah, or analyzing the artist's use of perspective.
Right.
With the skull, the kids might measure its circumference.
Or try to estimate its age.
Exactly.
Based on certain features.
So this entry point really engages our analytical and problem-solving skills.
Our left brain.
Right, exactly.
So we've got aesthetic, narrative, logical, quantitative.
Yeah, and then we have the foundational entry point.
Foundational. So this is about like the big picture.
Yeah, the underlying principles or the big ideas.
The deeper meaning.
Exactly. So this one delves into the philosophical questions surrounding an object or a work of art.
So you might ask, what makes this piece of art important?
Yeah, what does it tell us about the human condition?
What are the ethical considerations of studying a skull?
Exactly.
Big question.
Yeah, big questions.
So this encourages deeper, more abstract thinking.
Totally. And then finally, we have the experiential entry point.
Experiential. So this is about hands-on learning.
Exactly.
Learning by doing.
Yeah, connecting with the subject through direct experience.
So if it's a painting, you might try to recreate part of it.
Yeah.
Or act out a scene it depicts.
Yeah, with the skull, they might create a model of it using clay.
Or even write a song about it.
Yeah, so this entry point emphasizes active engagement.
Okay, so it's not just about observing or analyzing.
It's about really getting in there and experiencing it firsthand.
It's about doing.
Yeah, and it's important to remember that while these 5 entry points are super helpful, as a framework.
It's not like a rigid set of categories.
Exactly. The core idea is that there are multiple valid ways
to approach and understand a subject.
Exactly. And Gardner himself even refined these categories over time.
Oh, so he added more.
Yeah, he's added more entry points.
But the fundamental principle remains
right.
that we all connect with information in different ways.
Yeah. And this idea of multiplicity, this idea that there are multiple ways of knowing and understanding,
right,
leads us to MI theory.
Okay, so the theory of multiple intelligences.
Yeah, so this theory, which Gardner first presented in the early 1980s, suggests that intelligence isn't just this one thing that can be measured by an IQ test.
Right, like there's not just one way to be smart.
Exactly.
There are multiple intelligences.
Yeah, so it proposes that we have all these different kinds of intelligence, different ways of being smart that allow us to solve problems.
To create things.
And create things that are valued in our culture.
So it's not just about book smarts.
Exactly.
It's about all the different ways that people can excel.
So Gardner originally identified 7 of these intelligences.
Okay, so what are they?
So each one represents a different kind of ability.
Wow.
So we've got linguistic intelligence.
Okay, so people who are good with words.
Yeah, like writers and speakers.
Poets, journalists.
Exactly. Then there's logical mathematical intelligence.
So this is your scientists and mathematicians, people who are good at reasoning and problem solving.
And then we have bodily kinesthetic intelligence.
Okay, so this is more physical.
Yeah, so dancers, athletes, people with great physical coordination.
Gymnasts, surgeons.
Yeah, exactly. And then we have musical intelligence.
Musicians, obviously.
Yeah, composers, performers, people who are sensitive to rhythm and melody.
Right.
And then we have spatial intelligence.
Okay, so this is about visualizing things in 3D.
Yeah, so architects, artists,
sculptors,
navigators,
sailors.
Yeah, people who can see things in space.
And starting to get it.
And then there's interpersonal intelligence.
Interpersonal, so between people.
Exactly. So this is the ability to understand and interact effectively with others.
Okay, so your teachers, therapists.
Salespeople.
Leaders.
Yeah, people who are good with people.
Social intelligence.
And then finally, we have intrapersonal intelligence.
Intrapersonal, so within yourself.
Exactly. So this is about self-awareness.
Understanding your own emotions and motivations.
Yeah.
So your philosophers, your psychologists.
Your writers.
Right, people who are very introspective.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's 7 different intelligences.
Right, and it's crucial to understand that MI theory doesn't mean we each just have one dominant intelligence.
Right.
It's not like you're either this or that.
We all have a blend.
Yeah, we all have this unique profile.
A combination.
A combination of strengths and weaknesses across these different areas.
So you might be strong in linguistic intelligence, but also have some musical intelligence.
Exactly. So like a fantastic writer might have really strong linguistic intelligence, but also maybe well-developed intrapersonal intelligence.
To tap into those deep emotions.
Exactly.
And maybe even interpersonal intelligence to create those complex characters.
Totally. So it's this unique combination that makes each person's way of learning and understanding the world different.
Right. So we're all a mix.
And what's interesting is that in the context of art, there isn't like a separate artistic intelligence in MI theory.
So it's not like you're either artistic or you're not.
Yeah, instead, artistic expression draws upon a combination of these different intelligences.
Makes sense.
So a sculptor might heavily rely on their spatial and bodily kinesthetic intelligences, while a songwriter would use their musical and linguistic intelligences.
Right, different combinations for different art forms.
Yeah, and the aesthetic quality comes from how these intelligences are applied and integrated.
So it's not just about having the intelligence, it's about how you use it.
Exactly.
Okay.
So MI theory really helps us appreciate the vast diversity
Of human abilities.
And it gives us this framework for thinking about why people might approach the same problem.
Or the same piece of information.
Totally different ways.
Right. So instead of getting frustrated when someone doesn't get it, we can try to understand their unique intelligence profile.
Yeah, and the later editions of naturalistic intelligence, which is the ability to understand the natural world.
So like a naturalist or a biologist.
And existential intelligence, which is the capacity to ponder questions about existence.
Okay, so like philosophers and theologians, deep thinkers.
They just emphasize this idea of multiplicity even more.
Yeah.
Right? That there are many ways of being intelligent.
Yeah, so our understanding of intelligence is always expanding.
It's a journey.
It's not fixed.
Right.
And this connects beautifully to how art functions.
Okay, so how does art demonstrate intelligence?
So art demonstrates cognitive form through both the artist's internal understanding and the external symbols they create in their artwork.
So it's both internal and external.
Yeah. So when we engage with art, we're basically doing this active intellectual process of interpreting those symbols.
Right. We're trying to make sense of it.
Yeah, and trying to understand the artist's perspective.
And because we all have these unique profiles of intelligences shaped by our own experience,
our own perspectives,
the way we interpret and respond to the world, including art, is also unique. Yeah, so MI theory helps us understand these different talents for making sense of things.
Okay, so it's about the learner and their unique way of processing information.
Exactly.
But the entry point approach offers this practical structure for thinking about the different pathways learners can take
to explore meaning.
So it's about the content and the different ways to access it.
Exactly. And it might be tempting to try and like create these neat little one-to-one mappings between specific intelligences and specific entry points.
Like saying linguistic intelligence always goes with the narrative entry point.
Yeah.
But it's more complicated than that.
It's not that simple.
There are not enough entry points to match all the intelligences.
Exactly. And Davis actually suggests that it's more helpful to think of MI theory as describing the learner.
The person doing the learning.
Yeah, the activation and the EP approach as describing the text.
Okay.
Whether it's a book, a poem, a painting, or even a skull.
So it's a thing being learned about.
Yeah. Exactly. And if you look at those original 5 entry points, the narrative, the aesthetic, the logical quantitative,
the foundational,
they all seem to be qualities of the text itself.
Right. So the narrative is the story in or around the text.
Yeah.
The aesthetic is its sensory presentation.
The logical quantitative is its measurable aspects.
And the foundational is its underlying principles.
Yeah. So those are all kind of like inherent in the text itself.
But the experiential and interpersonal entry points,
yeah,
those seem to be more about the process of learning.
Yeah, about how we engage with the text.
Not just about a quality of the text itself.
And it's fascinating to see how Gardner's own thinking on these ideas has evolved over time.
Oh, so he changed his mind about something.
Well, yeah, he's refined his thinking.
That's cool.
So he initially suggested that intelligences could be both subject matters.
Okay.
Like you could teach a class on linguistic intelligence.
Right.
And also tools for teaching other subjects.
Okay.
But he later clarified that intelligences are really the underlying capacities.
Okay.
That are used within different domains.
So they're not subjects themselves.
Yeah, they're like the tool,
the building blocks
that we use to engage with those subjects.
I like that.
And these revisions really highlight that thinking about thinking
Metacognition
is an ongoing process, even for the people who develop these educational theories.
Right, so it's okay to change your mind.
Yeah, it's okay to refine your thinking.
It's a sign of growth.
Exactly. So MI theory and the EP approach are distinct ideas,
But they work together.
but they work together really well.
So MI theory gives us a nuanced view of the learner,
Yeah,
and EP gives us a nuanced view of what's being learned.
exactly. So they complement each other.
Yeah, they're like two sides of the same coin.
And it's at the intersection of these two ideas that some really powerful learning experiences can happen.
Like in that 5th grade classroom.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So remember those paper windows?
Right.
So the instructions on each window were directly linked to those 5 entry points. So the story window for narrative asked students to tell the story of the object.
Oh.
The action window for experiential prompted them to do it, make it by drawing a picture.
Cool.
The scene sensing window for aesthetic instructed them to look at it carefully and write down details.
Okay.
The reason window for logical quantitative said figure it out and ask for questions about the object.
Gotcha.
And the fundamental window for foundational windows encouraged them to reflect on it.
By writing their theory about its importance.
Yeah,
So they were really using those entry points.
And by engaging with all these different prompts, not just with the science objects,
Right.
but also with the artwork in the museum.
Right. They did it in both settings.
The students created these tangible records of their understanding.
So they had something to look back on.
Yeah, so all these drawings, stories, questions, they weren't just assignments to be completed.
They were like artifacts of their learning process.
Yeah, they became resources for reflection.
So they could revisit their thinking.
Exactly. So the students could look back and think about their own thought process.
And they could see how their classmates responded to the same tasks.
And think about how the different texts and settings influence their thinking.
So it's all about metacognition.
Exactly.
Becoming aware of your own learning.
And those small group reflections after each activity were so important.
They got to talk about it.
Yeah. So the teacher would ask, which window was easiest? Which was hardest? Which one seemed to work best with different kinds of objects? Did you notice any patterns in your own preferences?
Those are great questions.
Yeah. And it's interesting because these were often the same questions
Okay.
that the adult educators in the MUSE project were exploring.
So it's not just for kids.
Yeah,
These questions are relevant for learners of all ages.
exactly. And the class-wide reflection took the learning even deeper.
Okay, so they had a whole class discussion.
Yeah. So they discussed the differences between learning in the classroom and in the museum, what they learned about science and about learning science in a museum setting,
Okay.
and what they discovered about themselves as learners with different preferences and strengths.
So they were really reflecting on the whole experience.
And the teacher observed that these kinds of self-reflective questions
Right.
weren't typical for her students.
That's interesting.
And it just highlights how often education focuses on the content
Right.
rather than on the process.
On how we learn,
Exactly.
which is just as important as what we learn.
Totally.
And one of the most fascinating things they found was that students didn't always have one favorite entry point.
Yeah.
Just like Terry,
Yeah, with the figure it out window.
different entry points were more or less appealing depending on the object.
Yeah, so this dynamic interaction between the text, the entry point, and the context was a major point of interest.
So our preferences aren't fixed.
And it shows that our preferences aren't always fixed.
It depends on what we're engaging with.
Exactly. And while Gardner does suggest some connections between certain intelligence profiles and entry points.
Like linguistic intelligence and narrative.
Yeah, but it's important not to oversimplify these links.
Right.
It's the interplay between the text itself, the context, and the entry point.
That creates the learning experience.
And really shapes the learning experience. So to explore those preferences further,
Okay.
the researchers even created this informal kind of preferences survey for adults,
Oh, interesting.
almost like a Myers-Briggs for entry
Right.
points.
Okay, so how did that work?
So participants looked at 5 sets of questions,
Okay.
one set for each entry point,
Okay.
all related to the same work of art.
Gotcha.
And they noted which question in each set they found the most engaging
Interesting.
or interesting.
So give us some examples of the questions.
Okay, so for the aesthetic entry point, some questions were, what are the most striking visual elements of this artwork?
Okay.
And if you could touch this artwork, what do you think it would feel like?
Okay. I like that one.
Yeah.
Engaging the senses.
And then for the narrative entry point,
Okay.
if this artwork could tell a story, what would it be?
Okay.
And who are the characters, or what are the key elements in this scene?
Right. Imagining a story behind it.
And then for logical quantitative,
Numbers and patterns.
are there any patterns or repetitions in this artwork?
Okay.
And how do the different parts of this artwork seem to relate to each other.
So analyzing the structure.
Exactly. And then for foundational,
Big ideas.
what ideas or feelings do you think the artist was trying to express?
Okay.
And what might someone from a different time or culture think about this artwork?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Thinking outside your own perspective.
And then finally for experiential,
Hands-on.
if you could step inside this artwork,
Okay.
what would you do?
Okay.
And how does looking at this artwork make your body feel?
Oh, interesting. So connecting the art to your physical sensations.
Exactly. So after thinking about all these questions,
Right.
the participants were asked to reflect on their choices.
Okay.
So which entry point did they pick most often?
Right. Did they notice any patterns?
Did they think their preferences might change
Yeah.
if they were looking at a different artwork?
Or a non-art object?
Or even a non-art object?
Yeah.
Did they think they would always be most drawn to the same type of question?
So it's about becoming aware of your preferences.
Yeah, exactly.
And how they might shift.
And while this wasn't a formal research study,
Right.
the observations were really interesting.
So what did they find?
So very few people had this strong, consistent preference for a single entry point.